I was bored. Oh my God. I was bored. And all of a sudden I got so excited because boredom is the launch pad for all creativity, for all discoveries, for all new ideas to emerge. The problem with the world that we're living in, well, I shouldn't say the problem, one of the problem is that we're never bored anymore.
Welcome to the world of energy, where science meets spirit. Ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge knowledge, and the possibilities for a healthier, happier you are endless.
Hi, everyone. Lauren here with a solo episode of Energy Works. And I want to talk about boredom. So I am taking a little bit of some time off this winter, and I've been working really hard, and I just needed to refill the well, deep rest, rejuvenation, all the things, right? All the things that are perfect to do in the winter time. It is the yin time of year. It is the time of going inward and all of those things, deep relaxation, deep reset. And so today is kind of the first day that I have off. I mean, as a business owner of a small company, you're never really off. I'm always working. I'm always thinking of new ideas and doing all kinds of things behind the scenes. But I do have a little bit of a pause in my schedule for the next few weeks. And so this is my first sort of free day. As a matter of fact, I had a interview that I was meant to do, and they emailed me and said, can we move this? And I thought, yeah, let's move it. And so then I really did have a free full day. My husband is out doing other things. I have the house to myself, which is one of my favorite things to do. And what have I done? So I spent a lot of time scrolling this morning, which I know I did another podcast about this. And I thought, okay, I need to go back to that podcast and tune back in and get off this scrolling. And so I stopped scrolling because, like, what was I gaining off of this? Just looking at all kinds of stuff that have no relevance to me at all. And this is the real hook of social media and of kind of smartphones and even just being on your computer in general, is they hook you in to keep looking at things, even if you have no interest and they have no relevance in your life. And I'm not even doing doom scrolling, which you could say has some relevance to your life. I was just looking at stupid things. And so I had that aha, and I put the phone down. And it's a cold and dreary and dark day, so it's not like anything is calling me to go outside and play. And I'm sitting on the couch. I have 3 books that I'm in the middle of reading. I have a slew of things I could, should, would be doing, but I just sat there. And I just started thinking, why am I scrolling? Or what am I going to do with this day? And all of a sudden it creeped in on me slowly and then just hugely. I was bored. Oh my God. I was bored. And all of a sudden I got so excited because boredom is the launch pad for all creativity, for all discoveries, for all new ideas to emerge. The problem with the world that we're living in, well, I shouldn't say the problem, one of the problem is that we're never bored anymore. We're never just staring off into space or looking at how what are those things called? When you walk by in the woods and they stick to you, the little stickers. Somebody saw that and discovered how plants attach to things walking by with a lot of strength And then they invented Velcro just by looking around because there was nothing else to do. They weren't scrolling to see where Taylor Swift is going next and what she's wearing. They were just looking around at the world around them. Newton under the tree in this apocryphal story, and the apple drops. Well, Newton today would probably be scrolling on his Apple computer or his Apple iPhone, and he wouldn't notice anything going on around him. There's actually a whole movement now that is gloming on in kind of an interesting way to this age-old phenomenon of being bored. And they're like these influencers. I just read an article about this in the Times a little while ago about these influencers who are now out competing each other to convince you to do nothing. And they post these videos of themselves staring off into space, doing nothing. I can't imagine a worse thing to do than scroll through social media and pause and stop and watch somebody doing nothing. That is just like the height of insanity of the world that we are currently in. But they do have an idea right at the root, which is spending time doing nothing. It clears the mind. It helps take the body out of this fight or flight that we are constantly in when we're scrolling. Because even if you're not looking at something that's incendiary, just the fact of the constancy of it puts your whole system on this kind of frazzled place. So meditation is literally a doing nothing. Even though a lot of meditations, you're trying to focus and do something, count your breath or count beads or recite a mantra. But the goal ultimately is to sit in stillness while the mind just does what it's doing and not attached to that. So kind of a corollary of doing nothing. Because we have too much going on in our lives. And the whole layer of addition of social media and just media and the constancy of it makes us feel like life is busier and more harrowing and more intense than it really is. And then we kind of get addicted to that feeling sense of intensity. That's the cortisol rush. That's the adrenal fatigue that everyone's talking about. They're like, oh, my adrenals are burning out. And yet I'm not going to change anything that I do because it's kind of addicting. It's like the cup of coffee and then the second and then the third. And then there's some people like they can't start their day without the cup of coffee because they need to get amped up to a certain level to be able to function. I mean, people even talk about that, like fine tuning. How much input of caffeine, or people do that with other drugs as well, but caffeine is the drug that really like amps you up. And total sidebar, there was a study years and years ago of spiders, and they put spiders on all these different drugs and then watched them weave their webs. And the worst web, the web that had no potential of ever catching a fly or even holding itself together for very long, was the one with the spider on caffeine. And social media and constant scrolling is like being on caffeine, like jacked up, like 10 espressos. And so then your body gets used to that. And when you wean yourself or just cut yourself off of that, life starts to look kind of boring. Because there really isn't so much drama going on constantly in your life. Generally. Now, obviously, if you've got small children, or maybe if you've got teenage children, you might have a little more drama than the average bear. But our lives are not as melodramatic as social media makes them appear and makes us feel that they are. So then when we get off that, and we're alone in our homes, we're just like, what do I do now? Like, I have the day off. What am I supposed to do with all this empty time and space. And our fears make us run and grab and fill them, which is what I did unconsciously this morning when I got up, and I had to check a couple of things online that were things that I really did need to look at. I'm working on a couple of things, even though I said I'm taking time off. Y'all know, if you know me, that I'm always still doing something. So I had to check on a couple of these projects and see if their launch dates were still going to work. But that's all I had to do. I did not need to spend, I'm not even going to tell you how much time, because it's a redonk amount of time scrolling on this stupid, inconsequential, to me, stuff. None of these things have any relevance to my day-to-day life. And it was all in this understanding now that I was afraid of the boredom, afraid of just the nothingness. What am I going to do if I don't have something to do? Even though that's what I was trying to create for myself. And now here it is, day one. And look, I'm doing a podcast because the nothingness was so huge, is so huge. But this is not going to be a long podcast. And I am going back to the void. But I thought it was important to share this with you, that the very thing that we're most afraid of is often the thing that is going to bring us the most richness. And so giving yourself space and time that is empty, truly, no scrolling, no reading, just sitting and being. You don't have to sit in a comfortable cross-legged seat with your hands in some mudra, close the eyes and chant. You don't have to do any of those things. Just sit and be, and look around the room or look around outside and just notice your mind wandering. Let yourself have some exquisite moments of boredom. And then see if something emerges into that space that is different than what you were going to just put in by habit. Maybe something has been lurking on the sidelines that you haven't noticed because you've just been doing the same thing over and over again, or you've just been filling all the blank space with scrolling. Blaine and I did a joint podcast the other day about Chinese 5-element theory. Both of us are absolutely obsessed with it. It's one of the foundations of our company. But what we were talking about is how 5,000 years ago, when Ayurveda and Chinese medicine were being developed, there were no distractions. And so the people that were sitting in deep meditation, discovering the paths of the meridians, the directions of the chakra flows, were deeply tuning in to what was happening and what is still happening in each of our human bodies and animal bodies all around the planet. But now we just can go to a book and say, where is heart 8 and what do I hold heart 8 with, to blah, 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 blah. We read the books. Or we go to the acupuncturist and say, this is what I have been feeling, just put your needles in me and let the magic happen. But if we just sat in the stillness, what would emerge? What emerges from the void? That's my question for you. Putting it out there on this rainy, cloudy, gray, warm-ish, not cold enough to snow Sunday morning. I guess it's Sunday afternoon now. And I am going to go back into that place and I'll let you know what I find. You tell me yours and I'll tell you mine. Leave a note in the comments. We read them all. We want to hear from you. One of the things that is so fun about the void, which is also called the field, is that we're all connected in it. And so if you've ever had an idea and you thought, I'd better do this idea or someone else will take it, it's not untrue, because those ideas are all floating in the field, up for grabs. And so the more time you spend scrolling through someone else's ideas, the less time you have available to you to be fishing in the void for your own next thing. And even if that next thing is more nothing, more boredom, boredom leads to peace, distilled groundedness. It is the antidote we need right now for this harried, frenzied time that we've been in. Stop. Let's take a pause. Let's take a rest. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Energy Works.
Alrighty, Energy fans, that's a wrap on another positively charged episode of Energy Works. Lauren, this is the part where we get to use our energy puns.
It's been electrifying, hasn't it, Blaine? We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
If you're feeling amped up and you want to keep your energy flowing, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform.
And we'd love to hear from you, so please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates, so light up our inbox.
And spark a conversation with your friends to tell them about us. And we'll see you next time on Energy Works.